It always feels so old school when I do this. All of the same worries come back, like, am I in focus? Do I have something in my teeth? Does my hair look rubbish? Is there going to be loads of noise and is this going to be really frustrating to film? So many things to consider when filming a sit-down video. It's why I enjoy vlogging so much. But I'm not vlogging this first half of the week, I don't think. Sorry, I'm just getting comfortable. It's very Christmassy in my house at the moment because we're doing a Christmas shoot and it just feels completely not aligned with me as a person when we're that far ahead. And so I didn't want to have that in any of my vlogs. So I thought, you know what, it's been such a long time since we've done any kind of Q&A and proper sit down chat like this. And I always feel some of my best insight come out when you guys ask questions. And so I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for all of the questions, because it's so wonderful to still be doing this after as many years as I've been doing this and still have an audience that wants to know things. I feel so bloomin' grateful that you even care to ask the question. And so I've had such a wonderful morning going through and checking and selecting questions. And I've done something a little bit different this time. I've actually asked Carrie to pick a couple of questions as well, because I generally have the tendency to play it safe. And so I thought I'd open up the room to her and see if she thought there would be some interesting questions in there as well. So I think we'll probably just get into it. Although I will say I always want to be mindful when I film these things, and I'll often share opinions and experiences and thoughts and lessons. And I want you to know that these only come from a place of my experience. It may not be applicable to everyone and every situation. And I think what's super important when watching my videos is knowing that just because I experience something in a certain type of way, it doesn't mean that that's the cookie cutter mold and it's the only way for it to be done or the only way for it to be sorted. I just don't want you to think that it's a sort of sweeping statement, and I'll try my best to be very clear on what I'm saying throughout, but more than anything I want to be mindful to the breadth of experiences and lives lived and possibilities from everyone, the 1 million of you that could potentially watch. And so with that, all I can do is say that this is from my opinion, my experience, and I don't want you to feel like what I'm saying is the only way for it to be. Your experience will be completely different, your journey with things will be completely different, and so it's always important to bear in mind, because I'm going to talk about some things that might be difficult, but also might be sensitive for you, but maybe not so sensitive for me to talk about. I don't want there to descend into chaos in the comments section, because it's supposed to be a bit of fun. It's never supposed to be that serious. So anyway, with that in mind, I thought, oh, my sticky pad. Oh, Carrie's come in with a last minute. Oh yeah, I've done that one. She's chosen one that I've chosen. And I'll point out which one it is that she's chosen. She said this, as you're good at this. I love that. Okay, so let's get into the questions. I'm hoping I'll make it through all of them, but if I don't yabber on for 4 minutes. So we're going to go in with this question from Anna Rosenland, and she has asked, do you ever experience anxiety or thoughts like that? And I thought this was such a good question, because from my experience and from my life and what I've experienced and been through, I've been able to see that for a number of years, probably more so in the early years of my career in this industry, I had severe anxiety. I was running on adrenaline constantly. I was constantly in fear. I constantly had a knot in my chest, and I lived like that for a number of years. What I would say from that is what I now know in my later years in life is that anxiety was what I know to be a self-induced anxiety. So that came from the thoughts in my brain, a lot of fear coming from the thoughts in my brain, a lot of living in the future on potential situations happening, potential scenarios, things that haven't happened yet, worry and that kind of thing. So I worried a lot about losing my career. I worried a lot about shame and things like that, and being shamed publicly and all of those kinds of things. And so for a number of years, I lived in what I know to be a self-induced state of anxiousness constantly. I think you can probably, if you go back and see, you'll probably see that I'm quite skinny. I constantly had like a knot in my chest. My stomach was always concave, because what I now know is these types of emotions present themselves in quite a physical way as well. So my stomach was like concaved inwards, and I never really had much of an appetite, and so it really shows on me as a person. And then as I went through life and I experienced a number of the fears that I'd been worried about, a number of the things that I'd worried about, and then set about trying to navigate them effectively, I realised how much of my thoughts were affecting my feelings, and the thoughts that my brain was serving to me and offering up was making me feel anxious. So what if you lose your job? You're then going to lose your house. You're then going to be here, there and everywhere. What if you lose this? What if this happens? What if you end up here? All of these things that your brain goes, oh, what about that? Oh, that's your biggest fear. Don't forget that. Oh, you're really worried about that. Remember, don't forget that. It was constantly going around in my mind and creating a state of anxiousness. And from that, now I've been able to learn how my thoughts affected me in that way. So now I don't experience that side of anxiety, I would say, at all. I've yet to sort of experience a scenario now or any thoughts in my brain that I'm not able to counteract with a different scenario. However, I've spoken a lot about my PMDD, and PMDD is very much the other end of the spectrum. So what I would say is, when it comes to PMDD, I have experienced a hormonal anxiousness. So that is like a chemical reaction in my body that I have no control over. There is nothing I can do about it other than accept it and do the things I know around that time of the month to be able to self-soothe in that kind of way. And so it's made me very aware of the fact that there is two different types. There may be more, but just from my experience, there is two different types of anxiousnesses, some of which is self-induced, and some of it which is not self-induced, and it is chemical imbalances in your body. This one, I think with learnings and help and therapies and coaching, you're able to actually turn it around with like hard work. This one, it may take medication, it may take other things. What I've experienced is that diet affects the chemicals in my body, which kind of makes sense to me anyway, that my diet and my lifestyle really affects the way my body functions. And so I do think that there could be something in that for other people as well, that are maybe experiencing not the self-induced anxiety, but more the chemical side of anxiety. It could be a method to explore. And I always tread really carefully with saying that, because as with anything, this is not a sweeping statement. I think many people have absolutely no control over the feelings within their bodies, but it is something that you can explore, and it might work for some people. It's definitely helped me so much. It's helped me regulate it a little bit more. It's really helped with balancing out my emotions. I'm not perfect. It's definitely not like, I wouldn't say I've cured myself or anything, but what I would say is that it has helped massively, focusing on the way I live my life, like the amount of sleep that I get, what I consume on a day-to-day basis in terms of like visuals and content and films and TV, and also the diet, the nutrients that my body takes in order to function, because we are miraculous, okay? Without getting too deep here, it is a blooming miracle what our bodies are doing right now for me to sit here in front of you. And without the correct fuel, it's kind of only apt that things may misfire and not work in the way that they should, or it may have to compensate elsewhere and use certain elements of your diet more because it's getting less or whatever. So it's something that I've definitely considered from experiencing and being able to look at the two different types of anxieties that I experience and see methods to combat them. And I share this because I hope that maybe if it's something that you haven't considered, like, am I self-inducing? Like, is the thoughts that I'm having causing my anxiousness? Is it the catastrophizing about life, my children, expectations, comparison? Is that what's causing my anxiety? Because if so, I can look at myself and see what I can do better to counteract that. If it's more chemical, hormonal, bodily, involuntary sort of side of things, are there areas where I could do better, or at least try? Could I maybe get more sleep so that my body can function better? Could I improve my diet, maybe eat less of like ultra processed or fast food, and can I eat things that I know are going to like nutritionally benefit my body, and see if that helps? I'm not saying that it's going to work. That's not what I would ever want to say, and it's definitely not going to be for everyone. But I honestly think if I was to talk about this subject and not explain to you what I've experienced, I would probably be doing this whole Q&A a disservice. And hopefully you'll be able to take from that what you will, because whilst it won't apply to everyone, some people have the most amazing approach to their feelings and their emotions and their bodies already. I know a few people like that. I definitely wasn't equipped with those things growing up, and I've had to sort of go away and scurry around and learn things. And so I hope that if you're in the same boat as me, maybe it might just get you thinking a bit differently about it. There will be so many breadths and so many different options when it comes to this as a topic, but whatever you do, always make sure that if you're going to be making any changes, make sure that you speak to a professional, whether it's a doctor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, whatever it is, when tackling something like anxieties and your sort of mental health and that kind of thing. I thought it might be interesting, and not a topic that I talk about a lot because I don't experience it in a way that isn't manageable for me now. I don't really talk about it hugely. I talk about maybe the confusion I experience when it's like that time of the month, but anxiety and mental health and that kind of thing is not something that I really talk about so much on my channel because I feel like I've got a good grasp on it at the moment. But hopefully me sharing some of this, it might give you a different perspective. So I hope that was interesting. The next question, and this is quite a deep one, and this was actually the question that Carrie recommended that I speak about, so I thought I had this as my number 2, let's go in there, but this is the one that she felt that I am good at navigating. And this question was from Beryl Rivers, and it says, dealing with grief. My nan passed a week ago. She was a big personality in the family. Sending you the biggest hug ever. I completely, fully understand how painful it is. I talk about grief quite a lot in my book, Evergreen. There's a big portion of it in autumn, which is the season that we're in at the moment. And that was one of the hardest chapters that I had to write and read and bare my soul on. And it's so interesting because I think if I was to record that section now, along with the section on my brand and things like that, I don't think I would cry. I don't know, but I don't think I would cry because I've even been on a journey since Evergreen in like making peace with death. And that sounds really morbid. What I realised was when Lynx, our cat, went missing many years ago, if you've been around since then, you'll remember that both Ali and I were blindsided by Lynx going missing. Absolutely blindsided. We were sleeping in the sofa, we couldn't eat, sleeping in the sofa, we were sleeping on the sofas in the living room just to be closer to the cat flap in case he came home. We weren't eating, we were like zombies, all we thought about, and naturally so. When something that you love goes missing like that, I think that does make sense. But we were so blindsided by it because we hadn't been honest with ourselves, because we had been living our lives like we were limitless. I would say that is quite a common way to live your life. I think we as humans often don't want to confront the fact that living a long and beautiful life into your 70s, 80s, 90s is a miraculous gift, and a gift that not everyone gets the beauty to experience. Realising that we are all so lucky to be waking up every single day and living life for another day, getting another morning, another breakfast, another lunch, another hug with a friend on this earth is like a truly miraculous thing. And that was how we had been existing, in this complete denial of the fact that we could die at any moment, or the ones we love could die at any moment. It doesn't matter how old they are, it doesn't matter how kind they are, it doesn't matter how much of a good person they are, they could die at any moment, and we just had ignored that for such a long time. And so what I chose to do is to go on a bit of a self-discovery of mortality and like understanding how I truly hope that I get to live the most long and beautiful life. And I hope that everyone that I love does too, whether that's my furry family or my real life family. I really hope that everyone does, but it is unrealistic of me to expect that to be the case. And I think this journey really came about when I was noticing people that I know or that I love being completely and utterly blindsided themselves by people in their life passing, even when they have lived until their 70s, 80s, 90s, hundreds if you're really lucky. And I found that really fascinating, because when my nonno died, my nonno had lived a very, very long life and a very colourful life, and he was a real character. The sadness and the grief was different for me because he'd lived a long and beautiful life. And it's almost like I'd subconsciously prepared myself for that one because he'd lived his life. But I think when we live a life in denial of the fact that one day they won't be around anymore is when we almost are preparing ourselves to self-destruct when our loved ones are no longer here. And there will be different types of loss and different types of grief, but having the awareness that you are not limitless, your family is not limitless. You often hear it when people say, I always felt like my mum or my dad was invincible, to stop ourselves from confronting the reality of the fact that that's not the case. And I think that sounds quite harsh, but what this has given me is the most beautiful sense of perspective and gratitude, because once you have gone, oh my goodness, everyone in my life is not guaranteed to be here forever. So it gives you a new sort of approach to how you spend your time with those people and what kind of effort and love and attention and gratitude that you have for them in a different way. And the same is applied for yourself when you realise, oh my gosh, I could literally, and like really feel that, really understand that, I could literally drop dead once I turn this camera off and never live another day on this earth, never get to smell spring, never get to light the fire in my living room. And so all of those mundane things that we do every single day suddenly take on a sense of gratitude that you are like, oh my goodness, I am not going to be here forever. I've got to live life better than I have been, Because when you think that your days are limitless, you're like, I've got time. Don't worry about me, I've got time. I'm fine. And the reality is you might not have tomorrow. All of us might not have tomorrow. And so it's made me go on this journey with both the loss of Lynx and the loss of my nonno and the loss of my grandpa. I don't necessarily speak about my grandpa too much because it happened when I was 18, and I definitely feel like he was in his 80s then. And so now I'm like, gosh, yeah, like to have had him until I was 18, to have my nonno until I was in my 30s, that's a gift that so many people don't get. And so my perspective has changed on that too. And so what I would say with regards to this person who is grieving for their grandma, obviously I don't know what age she passed, but my mind instantly goes to the fact that it sounds like she was a staple part of your family already. And to have that kind of relationship with any kind of member of your family is a gift in itself. But I'm guessing if she's your nan and she's passed, she's probably lived quite a colourful life. That's 3 generations of people already. And she's probably lived quite a beautiful life. And that in itself is a wonderful thing, to have had that person for that amount of time. And so best case scenario, I would say, is that someone passes having lived a long and beautiful life. So many people don't get to know their grandparents, don't ever meet them, vaguely remember them from their childhood. Like, I cling on to the fact that I had my grandpa until I was 18, and the fact that I can still remember how he laughed, because so many people never know how their grandparents laugh. So I'm eternally grateful for the fact that I can hear, like literally right now, I can hear his laugh in my head, and I'm like, I got to experience that. That's a gift. It's immeasurably sad that he's not here anymore. Like, and if I could click my fingers and make him live forever, I would. And so I cling on to the beautifulness of what I did have, rather than thinking about what I don't have now. By telling yourself all of the wonderful things that you got, whether she was able to be at your wedding, whether she was able to be at the birth of your first child, or meet her grandchildren, or all of those kinds of things are gifts that so many people never get. And so my roundabout way of saying this is just that thinking about it often, because I think about my own mortality, I try and think about it as much as possible, and that sounds so weird, but I do, because it is the most jolting into gratitude I can ever explain, because you instantly go, oh my gosh, everything that's happening today, the boiler's broken, the toilet's overflowing, the children are crying, this, that and the other, everything just goes, oop, because you've got another day to live. And that very well could not have happened. I find it to be one of the most calming exercises. In fact, I would say that this is up there with one of the most powerful things I've ever confronted in myself. I hope that helps. So this question is from Loris Caruso. Please, I apologise if I've spelt or said anyone's name wrong, but this question is, where would you live if you had to live in London? Where would I live if I had to live in London? I've never lived in London. I know lots of people often think that I did live in London, and that's because I used to go down to London with a suitcase and take pictures in London and then head out back to where I lived. And so I was afraid, I was like, why do people think I lived in London? And I'm like, oh, it's because you actually did make it look like you lived in London. But I never did. However, that being said, I would probably say that the place that seems most me to live is somewhere like Hampstead Heath and like Primrose Hill and those kinds of places that almost feel like villages within London. They don't feel like there's quite the level of hustle and bustle in them, but whilst you still get the trendiness of London. And that's one thing that I really, really enjoy about London. It's the amount of independence that you get, and it's pretty similar to what you get in the Cotswolds. It's like that ability to access independence and like artisanal things, whereas when you live places like, I don't know, like where I grew up in like Watford, you will only really get like, you know, chains and things like that. And I think that's what London is really, really good for. is being able to go to like a really artisanal bakery or a beautiful butcher's and farm shops, but on, where was I the other day? Is it Mayfair or Mayfair? I think it's Mayfair. In that area, I don't know London very well, I'm really bad with London, but there's like farmers shops and Dalesfords and things like that, and I think that that's really lovely about London. So I'd probably say somewhere like Hampstead Heath, and I read a book recently that was set in the old times about living on Hampstead Heath, like in that area, and it was just wonderful. I loved it. So I think if I had to live somewhere, I'm not saying it's ever going to happen, it would be there, I think. Nice and easy one, although I'm sweating from the other ones. Oh, this is a good question, I think. What were the actual steps that you took to change from not letting others' opinions bother you? Okay, I feel like this is a really good question because I'm still realising things now, but if you don't know, I have been on the internet for pretty much like 13 years. I think it'll be 13 years in October. And I'd had a blog for the most of that time, and then I came to YouTube later on, and when I came to YouTube, I was not prepared. I don't know if anyone was when they came to YouTube in my era, but I was not prepared. I was not prepared for the opinions, I was not prepared for the negativity and that kind of thing, and I floundered for so many years, and I honestly think so often about like wanting to go back and just give my younger self the advice of what I know now, because it would be such a different story, I think, if I could go back, but I can't. So hopefully by talking about it in this way, the people that I see now, which I see a lot of, especially on TikTok, people struggling with the negativity of being online, hopefully it will help for them. But I was talking to Ali about this on one of our dog walks recently, and it was just a recent realization from me that I got to the point that one of the things that had the most profound impact on my journey online and where I am now is really setting out in front of me what my mission was. Because, and that seems really simple, but hopefully if you'll allow me to explain, you'll understand a little bit more. But I think a lot of people end up posting online because it just kind of happens. You don't plan, you can't really plan to build an audience. You kind of try and wing it and hope for the best, and if it comes, but you never really feel like you've achieved it because there's always more people to get to follow you. So it's like you don't really set out with a plan. But I found being really clear on what my mission is online, being able to acknowledge when my mission isn't for someone. My overarching mission is to help people live a really lovely life and a really peaceful life. As long as what I am doing is in the pursuit of either showing or helping others do that, if someone comes to me and says something like, you know, well, this is wrong or whatever, or you shouldn't be doing this and blah, 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 if I can look at what my mission is and be confident that what I was doing in that moment is in line with my mission, I just have to accept that that's not for that person. And it's really helped me understand where to take opinions from people, because I'm never saying don't take people's opinions. I'm just saying don't take everyone's opinions, because not everyone's opinion is for you. And a lot of people will follow you on this journey, and a lot of people will leave their opinions that are not for you, and your mission is not for them, but they lack the self-control and the self-reflection to be able to say, that's not for me. And so you're going to have to get really good at going, well, that's my mission. And in this piece of content, this hasn't been deviated from. And so I think that having this mission of what it is that you're aiming to do online, perhaps you're a mum and you're trying to show people how to live a good life as a mum and take care of yourself in the process. When you set out your mission very, very clearly, if these people are saying, oh, you know, she's showing this about being a mum and it's not very this, that and the other, if you can confidently look at your mission and say, no, I've hit the mark there, I'm fine. I've ticked all of the boxes of my mission, so that's just not something that I need to address. And this works in so many other elements of life as well. I use this to navigate conflict in my relationships. I have a set of 3 or 4 questions that I ask myself now whenever there's like maybe a situation where there might be confrontation or something like that, or I might have upset someone, or even navigating situations when I've like upset people online. And I ask myself these questions like, was I being kind? Like in what I know to be kind, was I being kind? Was it the truth to the best of my knowledge? And were my intentions good? I know I discussed with someone recently about the potential of adding in a question for them in particular as, is it important? Now with me, in navigating myself online, I realised that me doing a what's in my handbag video is not necessarily important. So that may not always apply to me. But confidently I can say, was it the truth to the best of my knowledge? Was I being kind? And were my intentions good? If I can tick all those boxes, I'm comfortable. And I have used this method in some of the most tumultuous experiences publicly and behind closed doors. And it's the most calming experience when you've got what you feel to be your morals and what you think is morally correct so clear that you can ask it in 3 questions and feel like calm. Everybody has different morals. Some people don't think that blowing out candles on your birthday is the right thing to do, and some people do. Morals are those things that everybody has that are, for the most part, quite individual, and it's only really when there are like laws in place where I think it's not up for discussion a lot of the time. Sometimes laws change, but that's generally how I navigate things. So when it comes to dealing with like people's opinions of me and people's thoughts about who I am as a person and what I do and things like that, I just always look at my mission. And if my mission is tick, 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 then I know that maybe that's not an opinion for me to take. I also don't take people's opinions and take them personally. Not everything is about me and not everything is about you. A lot of the time people are unknowingly projecting their own emotions, and I have a lot of empathy for that. I have so much empathy for people that maybe don't know how to navigate their emotions in like a mature way. And that is a privilege. Being taught how to be emotionally mature is such a privilege. I was lucky enough to go and pay to have that taught to me. And it is something that I truly wish that we should be taught, because we are all navigating life at the moment. A lot of us, not everyone, but like just floundering in our emotions and not knowing how to deal with them and not knowing how to not make our emotions about someone else and not make our feelings about things or our experiences about someone else when it's nothing to do with them. I was in a very lucky position where I got to go and learn about it, but now what I take great pride in is sharing those lessons with the people that I love around me. Becoming better at coping with your emotions only highlights around you when people aren't, and you don't ever want to be in a position where you've got no one around you that you can talk to. And I feel really grateful that like my closest people around me saw the change and the calmness in me, and they were like, I want some of that, whatever that is, like I want some of it. Another thing that's really helped me as well is not being offended. Like I genuinely don't ever want to give anybody the power to offend me. So somebody could say to me, Lydia, everything you have said in this video is utter codswallop, and I would never be offended by that. They could say, Lydia, you are the hairiest person on the world. I would never be offended by that. I'm the only person who knows the intricacies of those things, and nobody else is going to know those. And so I can't bear the thought of giving someone the opportunity to offend me with something that's just nothing to do with me. And so not being offended in life has been the most freeing experience. And so this is a whole lot of questions in one. It's not something that I could probably put into one answer, but those are a few of the things that have really helped me just navigate things better and become a calmer person online and do my job better and not feel like I'm having to bat away accusations and insults in every video, because there was a time when I was doing that, and I'm so sad and I'm so grateful that many of you have stuck with me and not been like, oh, shut up, Lydia. But now I just feel like being able to do this online and share me living this completely different life to what I was, I hope inspires others, because that's really why I wanted to learn all of these things. There is the possibility to thrive and live a wonderful life whilst there is hysteria going on about you online as well. And I really wanted to show that that's possible. You often wonder what your legacy will be. I think about that. I think about what is it that I want people to say about me, and it may not be that she was the #1 in the UK, it may not be that she was working with this, that and the other, but that she did always get back up. She always got back up and got on with it, and that's what I kind of hope. And hopefully, if you're navigating life online, if you're navigating life offline, and you're struggling with the feelings of being beaten down, there is so much power in always standing back up. And I promise you, even when you think you can't stand back up, you absolutely can. I am absolutely sweltering right now, okay, so I'm going to take this jumper off because it was bloomin' freezing this morning and it is a gloomy, gloomy day, and now I am roasting. Hokey cokey. I don't think I've ever got changed on a Q&A before, but it is toasty in here. The next question is how to balance sharing and oversharing on socials. Ho-ho! This is a topic because I have done both. Very much over the years, I have done both. And I would say that this probably relates back to what I was saying about your mission. And I think we all have experiences and difficult times and times that really, really test us. It's about knowing whether sharing that online is part of your mission and pushes your mission forward. So, for example, like my PMDD diagnosis, one of my parts of my mission is to live a peaceful life. And my symptoms around my time of the month were causing me a great level of unpeacefulness, to say the least. And so I hoped that by sharing that, there might be 1, 2, 3, however many people that maybe look at their cycles and notice how difficult it has been for them in their cycles as well, and the changes and the difficulties that they face and that kind of thing. So that was very much part of my mission. I am very, very careful about the tumultuous times that I experience in life now and sharing them online. I've realised it's so important to not give all of yourself. This is just me, by the way, this is just my opinion, but as someone that has given all of myself to the internet many times, I think I've realised that it's important to have experiences, good and bad, that potentially that aren't up for discussion in the wider environment. I've often found that in the moments where I've shared things that maybe I wouldn't share now, it's been because I hope that other people will validate my feelings around it. Does that make sense? So I'm looking for other people to tell me, no, you did the right thing, or you're right to feel that way, or you're right to have that opinion. Becoming stronger and having a stronger sense of self has made me able not to share those things in a public setting. It feels good to know that I'm not sharing things for that reason. I hope that answers the question. SCB Daniels asked, what's the habit you developed on your health journey that has made the biggest difference? I'm hoping that I'm allowed to include my mental health in my health journey, because I know that a lot of people will be talking about my health journey in terms of like the last 9 months since I made all of the changes, but I would arguably say that my biggest change in my health journey comes from my mental state, because that led me to be able to do the changes in my health. And that change has been full acceptance that I am responsible for how I feel. Nobody else is. So I am not waiting for anybody else to validate how I feel, or anybody else to cause me upset or make me happy or make me content. I am solely responsible. So then how that has impacted me on my health journey, I know nobody is going to kick me out the front door from my run on a Monday. Nobody is going to drag me out of bed and drive me to Pilates. And nobody is going to force feed the healthy foods to me other than myself. And so that responsibility, because I think, and this is my opinion, I think that a lot of the time we spend a lot of time blaming other people for the things that we don't do because it's easier. I used to spend a lot of time blaming my parents for the way that I was because they divorced. And now I know that it's not, in my opinion and in my situation, it's not their fault. It's how I thought about their situation that is my fault. I looked at that situation as a reason to feel like I didn't have something. Instead, what I ended up with was realizing that I had two happy people, not together, unhappy. So that has been the biggest change in everything, because it made me realize how responsible I am for allowing other people to make me think and feel things. It made me realize how responsible I am for my own healthy living and my own healthy lifestyle. And it made me stop blaming anyone around me for the situation I'm in. I don't blame anyone. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. There is nobody to blame in any situation about anything that has ever happened other than myself. I will always be able to find the reason why it was my fault, and why, if it happens again, I chose not to learn from that situation and do better the next time. And that's harsh. You're going to think I'm really harsh for saying that. And like I said, I'm just talking about myself here and how I deal with myself. But this has been my approach for the last few years. And I change and evolve, and it gets better, and I learn more and I know more. But it's been transformative. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And so whilst it seems harsh, I think it seems harsh because we're so used to giving so much grace to each other, which is a lovely thing. But I think it can also, when there is too much grace, allow for the inability to take responsibility. That's where I am. So I'm at the point where I'm like, I know that. And I know that it is always my responsibility. And I always just want to say, again, I will preface this by saying that you may have different views on that, and what I'm saying is not set in stone. It is not the law. It is not the only way to do these things. I'm just sharing my thoughts and my approaches to life in a way that makes me feel most peaceful and makes me find life very manageable and very enjoyable. And I don't dwell on things, I don't get upset by things, I live like the happiest life I've ever lived. And so that's why I'm sharing this knowledge with you, not because I'm saying that this is what applies to you. I'm saying this only comes from me and what I do to help me navigate life in the best way possible. Pembolina 92 asked, would you write another book? I would say Evergreen for me is honestly like my proudest achievement in my life so far in terms of like career. I cannot put into words how talking about it lights me up as a person. Truly, I'm so fulfilled from the journey that I've been on with Evergreen, and I'm still trying to think of ways to like commemorate things and just keep talking about it, basically. And so it feels strange for me to be able to even like think about another book. And what I would say is that I've always said this: there are different types of authors. There are storytellers, and there are people who have a story to tell. I think I fall into this camp. I am someone who had a story to tell, and I really wanted to tell that story and share it in the hope that it might bring some peace to some people. That's not to say I won't have another story in the future, And so if that opportunity came about then, I would absolutely love that. I just don't want to get into the pressures of producing more books where it maybe doesn't feel organic and there's pressure to, because this was my ultimate passion project. However, that being said, I know that a lot of people have asked for a like lifestyle and like coffee table book because you love evergreen in the way that it is, but you want something bigger. And I have to say, that is something that I would love to do, because it's not so much about the story. I think it's more about encapsulating the lifestyle that I live, and I would love to do that in the future. I can't even lie, and whether or not I will get the opportunity to, I don't know. I never thought that evergreen would ever come about. So, but I truly hope that I do get to do that in the future, so I'm kind of putting it out there into the world. But if it doesn't, it's just never meant to be. It's just that wasn't supposed to happen. But I think that that would be quite nice, because I think I've got some like, you know, I do things a bit strange round here. Oh, I love this. Okay, this is from D.MVA. What's the best way to approach an influencer at an event to say hi without bothering them? I love this question because I can only speak from my own opinion on this, so I am sorry if any influencer turns around to you and says, go away, I don't want to talk to you. I can only speak from my own view on this. But right now, I am sat in my dressing room on my own in an empty house. There is no one here, and I am talking to a camera. This career can be, at times, a little bit lonely, and it is only when I am out and about, or when I am at events, or when I am doing meetups, when I get to tangibly hug you, experience you, talk to you, and really feel like, oh wow, there is a real sense of community here, because it's such a strange thing to put into words, how I talk to a camera and then 100,000 people watch it. I can only say that when somebody approaches me, I just love the vulnerability of you coming up and saying hello. There's no bravado. I am as excited to meet you as I hope you are to meet me, and I will chew your ear off. In fact, a lot of the time at my events, someone will come along and be like, I'm so sorry, but there are other people that are here. And because otherwise I'll just talk to anyone for hours. And so in all honesty, I just think there is such a beauty in someone coming up to someone, and I do this to other people, just coming up to them and saying, I love what you do, and I love following you, and I love this about you. I've never had a situation where I've ever shunned anyone. In my 13 years, I have never said no to a picture. I've never said no to talking to anyone. If I ever have to like run off because I've got to like catch a train or I've got an appointment or whatever, I'll always do my best to try and explain it. But I am so confident in how I've been over my 13-year career that I know I've never said no, I've never shunned anyone, I've never been rude, I've never done anything to anyone that has come up to me and approached me. I just think your best authentic self, good vibes, and if someone ever turns around and isn't good vibes back, that's just a good thing to know. It's not something for you to take personally, it's just you know that that person is not a vibe and you move on. I love this one. I love this one because I feel like I have learned so much about this over the years, and this is one that Carrie picked. So this is, hello, how do you advise someone build friendships in their 30s? I've had a lot of friendships in my life. I've also had a lot of friendships in my career as an influencer, and I've learned a lot. And so hopefully I think that I can part some of my wisdom. I've still got a lot to learn. I'll still be learning until the day I'm no longer here. But what I've learned so far is that the most important thing about friendships is communication. And so almost like going back to what I've said about how do you approach an influencer, it's the same kind of thing if you're approaching a friend. Like, in fact, if I could go back and answer that question, I would say approach an influencer like you would approach a friend, with the same respect and love and admiration and space and benefit of the doubt. I would do it that way, because so much of like relationships are from based on the ability to be like vulnerable, our communication, our respect, all of those kinds of things. But I have learned that if you cannot communicate in a friendship, you haven't got a friendship. And I think I've learned this lesson the most from my friendship with Carrie, because everybody says to us, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you work together and are best friends, nearly like best friends of 10 years and working together for like 8 years. I don't know how you do it. And I know how we do it. I know. Now, I used to say I don't know how we do it, but no, I do. I know how we do it, because we communicate everything in terms of like, if somebody does something and the other person doesn't like it, we will talk about it. Nothing that is an issue ever goes unspoken about. And what you do when you speak about the issues of a relationship is you create a space to resolve it. And if one of you is not able to communicate, you cannot resolve it. And it is that simple. So being able to say to someone, oh, you did this and it hurt my feelings, and then fly off the handle, you can't communicate with that person. You've not got a friendship. But if you can say that to someone and then say, talk to me more about why that upset you, because I would never have thought that would have upset you, and I want to understand why, so that hopefully I can maybe offer a different perspective, or so that I can't do it again, because I wouldn't want to hurt you. But like, without communication, everything breaks down. And that has been over the years, through the friendships that I've loved and the friendships that I've lost and all of those kinds of things, I've learned that there are times when I've not been able to communicate. There are times when I've tried to communicate and been denied that opportunity. I've had opportunities to communicate and potentially they've not cared. And I've had situations where someone hasn't communicated with me, and so I've never had the opportunity to communicate with them, and it all breaks down on communication. And so if you put that at your highest possible thing when it comes to the friendships that you are hoping to cultivate, I genuinely believe that you will sail through friendships. Because whilst I don't have a huge group of friends, like my small, really like intense friendships where we can talk and debate and talk candidly and never worry about offending each other, and honestly, when I've said in that video in the past with Carrie, if you heard how Carrie and I speak to each other, it is savage, but like savagely loved, if that makes sense. Like, it's full of love, savage love. It is savage love, and I love that. And so I think, first of all, being content with the friendships that you have. I never feel like I'm looking for more friendships. If they happen, it's a beautiful thing. They naturally occur. I'm always open to more friendships, but I'm an energy person, and I can totally feel if energy is off. I can totally feel if something isn't right. I'm an energy person, and there are so few friendships in my life that, in fact, the only relationships that I have in my life are like, the energy of them is like I imagine if you're humming, and like, if that hum goes, the energy's off. You're in fight or flight mode, you're in worry, you're in second guessing, you're in insecurity. I don't want it. I only want friendships that are a constant, peaceful hum. I'm going to answer this one question because it's just timed out again. I think that might be the third or fourth time. But Caitlin Starr 121 has asked, you are most proud of ... I would say I am most proud of... What am I most proud of? Can I say Porty's toe beans? I'm very proud of them. They're very shiny and very well moisturised. But if we're being serious, and I feel like this has been the deepest Q&A I've ever done, I would say that I am most proud of the person I have become, because I can see the person I could have become in my head. And I'm very happy I didn't become that person, because I really like all of the things that I really like myself, which I didn't used to like myself. And I know that I wouldn't have become, this sounds so cliche, but I wouldn't have become the person that I am today and the person that I'm proud of if I hadn't experienced all of the highs and lows of life. And that's the thing that I think is so interesting. Like every single low, and I mean every single low, the lows that you don't know about, the lows that have never seen the light of day in the internet or in social, all of them have like come together to teach me all of the lessons that have made me a kinder, more empathetic, more resilient, more patient, more peaceful, more strong. Because all of those things don't mean that you're a walkover. I'm still strong and I love that too. So I'm like all of those things, but I'm not a walkover. And so that's why I'm like, I'm proud of that. I really like that. And I think that's a good thing. So there's lots of things that I think, but I would say if I'm allowed to be a little bit self-indulgent and say that, because I think I've spent a lot of time in my life beating myself up very publicly and mentally, to be able to sit here as a 36-year-old woman and say that I am most proud of the person that I have become and how I've become a better wife, friend, daughter, sister, and just general person in a day-to-day life. Like I know that nowadays, if I meet people on the street, I could very well be the person that changes that person's day. And I love that. I love that. And that makes me happy. It makes me like feel better about getting up in the morning. It makes me feel so many types of positive like feelings. And so, yeah, although I would also like to say that I'm also proud of the fact that I've worked hard and that I try and help others and I try and do good, and I know that everyone that works for me, I try and help, and I try and help as many people, so there's also that too. But yeah, anyway, that's the end of this Q&A. I hope that things will have returned to normal by the time you watch this, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well. I hope you found it insightful. Please let me know in the comments down below whether you liked it. I would love to do like more Q&As now, because I feel so much more confident speaking in this way online now. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed it. And just a reminder again that every single question and answer in this Q&A has only been coming from my own personal experience, and it's not to say that what you've experienced is wrong and not right, and if it's different, it's all your own journey, and we're all on our own journeys in this world trying to figure it out. And so if you're not figuring it out yet, if you're not there yet or whatever, it's fine, you will get there. I'm still figuring it out, so it's fine. But just so you know that if your experience is different, that's absolutely valid too. But hopefully there might be some nuggets of information in here that maybe make you think differently about things or consider different things. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you for watching. And I didn't burn my hair because the candle is way back there, and that's a poem. But I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.